Here we go. Michael Sullivan, Darrius Kennedy, set for an 8-minute grappling match. And I'll kind of step out of the way a little bit here and let Victoria, and we'll hear what Bobby Wambacher's got for us on the call as we step into this grappling match. And Bobby, what are some things that you were looking for in a grappling match like this?
I think the first thing is who's got the most patience. You know, you can see a lot, at least when you're in there, by the person who has the least, as silly as this is going to sound, the least amount of urgency, and the person who's more relaxed, I guess. And it's interesting in the earlier grappling match, you kept seeing, the position, and I forget the gentleman's name.
Robert Link.
Okay, yep. It was the other guy. Whoever.
Jack Miller, the rookie,
yes.
if you will, yes.
Like he was going for his positions, but then he was getting in awkward situations, and Robert was able to escape. So that was odd, I guess, to me. What do you think, Victoria?
Well, I think it's not so much a lack of urgency, it's who can stay a little bit tighter and more together, even though they have some kind of pressure or urgency to bring to the fight. I think a lot of times when you see guys, when they are over urgent, they start getting wild, and they're doing kind of big, crazy movements that you don't want to do when you're in any kind of a fight, whether it's grappling, MMA, kickboxing. We've got a guillotine attempt here from Kennedy. He used it to snap his opponent down.
Yeah, these two big bulls have been locked in a stalemate for about the first 2 minutes of this fight, but finally.
And I think we will see some more patience from these guys, just because they're so big. These are the big boys. Versus our grappling match earlier, the guys are a little smaller. You're going to see a lot quicker scrambles in that kind of a weight class.
And this is a position that the Mack truck found himself in a couple of times in his last fight against LeJarrick Taylor back at AKA 22. I'm curious to see how much he's evolved since then. And so far, we've seen it really be Kennedy who's been in control of this. You saw him try and get through that guard and potentially move into mount, but the Mack truck just closing up that guard so far, Victoria.
Yeah, it's interesting in a bout like this where you're doing submission grappling and you're looking for that submission. It's kind of counterintuitive to MMA. I would say that Darrius Kennedy would be winning right now if we were in an MMA bout, but there's very few submissions that he can do from inside of Michael Sullivan's guard. Michael's got the submissions that he can go for, though he's in an awkward position up against the cage. It's going to make it a little bit harder for him. If I were him, I would try to scoop myself out back into the open, because that would make it easier for me to move my hips in the positions I need to go for those submission attempts.
Bobby, put us in Larry Maxon's shoes right now. You're just trying to stay on top of the action as best you can.
Yes, and you want to be close enough to be able to get in there if something happens, but you want to be far enough away to give them ample area to work in. And it was funny what Victoria said.
Attempt here. Go ahead.
I was saying it was funny the way you were saying that, in an MMA match, he's winning, but here he's not necessarily. It's an observation that a lot of people don't realize. But in grappling, the guy on top isn't necessarily where he wants to be.
That was smart of Kennedy not allow Sullivan to lock up that triangle. And now he's moved into side control. There's some submissions that he can look for here as far as Kimuras and things like that. Or he could... one of my favorite positions is to get into that crucifix. Oh, and Sullivan just rolled him over.
And that's just pure power right there from Michael Sullivan. The big light heavyweight, now working from side control himself.
Nice scramble.
Halfway through regulation, neither of these fighters has scored a point yet. Of course, if you're just joining us, this is an 8-minute exhibition match, if you will, in a way, grappling match between these two. Submissions count as a point. We will run out the entire 8 minutes, and each submission will count as 1 point. So far, we are stuck in a 0-0 stalemate. See the strength of Kennedy right there, and once again back into the guard, Victoria.
Yes, that was a good double leg, other than the fact that he was not able to clear the legs. Like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot he can do as far as submissions from this position. And again, if I were Sullivan, I'd try to move myself away from the cage.
Yeah, trapped in that corner right there in front of the Sign It sign. Big thank you to Sign It for being one of our sponsors here at AKA 26. Once again, Kennedy trying to step over and maybe move into mount. Difficult, though, in this position, though, right?
Yeah, the cage is kind of in his way, but, I mean, if we sometimes forget as fighters in our pressuring against the cage that we can actually pull somebody off of the cage.
Great reversal here by Michael Sullivan. He's now into mount and working on a potential choke here.
He could finish it at heavyweight. It's not a high finish choke. It's more of a gi choke, but I'm sure that Kennedy's feeling really uncomfortable right now.
Larry Maxson right on top of the action as Darrius Kennedy.
I have seen heavyweights finish that choke before, so.
2 minutes remaining in the regulation. Now, we saw in our first fight, Robert Link with literally 10 seconds remaining in the fight. I mean, that's clutch, right? When you can come up with a submission with 10 seconds remaining, Bobby?
That is definitely clutch, and it definitely was out of nowhere.
Both of these fighters so far have showed off some pretty good skill. We've seen a good reversal from each fighter. We've seen a submission attempt from each fighter, but neither one has been able to score just yet.
That's one of the attractive things about jiu-jitsu as a sport. Is like you have weapons from everywhere. You have weapons from places that would not be considered dominant. And so you as a fighter, even if you're in a dominant position, have to be aware of what your opponent can do to you. And kudos to Robert Link who pulled off that guillotine last minute.
Well, the question becomes now, which one of these two fighters can find a late minute submission and potentially take home the victory? Sullivan closing that guard back up. 60 seconds remaining. If we make it through this next minute without a submission, a successful submission, we will have a 2-minute overtime. That overtime, explain the overtime rules a little bit for us, if you could, Bobby.
So they have a fighter, they'll put them in seatbelt, and they either got to get out or they got to get a submission. They have 2 minutes to do that. And then the whatever time that is accomplished, the other fighter will then have that much time to do it quicker or they'll lose.
Love it. Well, 30 seconds remaining.
Scramble here.
And you're right.
Kennedy's got it. If he can hold on to the legs and keep coming up, he can get in a better position. He's got to avoid that triangle, which there wasn't much there, so not too much to worry about.
10 seconds remaining. This is where we saw Robert Link sneak in a guillotine to get the victory earlier. But it appears as though we are going to go the distance, and we'll head into overtime. There's the bell. So Larry Maxson will stand them back to their feet, and we're headed to overtime. How does the game plan change now, Bobby, from what we've seen through the first 8 minutes? How do you change your game plan in these final 2 minutes?
Well, for me, I would like to be the guy going second. I would like to know what I've got to do. I'd like to know what I've got to, the time I've got to beat it in. So strategically, I'm going second if I can.
Makes sense to me. Victoria, have you ever been in this position, one of these, 10-minute grappling matches? I've
never done a submission grappling bout like this where you start in these different positions, but I've definitely done it in the gym. So, it's a good way to train for MMA because you see yourself possibly getting into some of these positions. You want to know what to do in the case of being in a bad position.
So it's submission or get out.
Okay, he's going to get his hooks in, get back mount here, seat belt.
You can hear the corner from Michael Sullivan saying position is key. And we are underway in overtime. So far, Kennedy doing a good job fighting those hands.
Hard to see here.
Yeah, difficult for us to see. We've got Larry Maxson standing in front of us. Nice boxers Larry's rocking here today, though. Loving those. And now it looks as though Kennedy's been able to fight the hands long enough to stay out of a rear naked choke, but
And he
Sullivan
wants to
keeps
turn
working.
his shoulders to the mat here. And not turn that way because it's easy for him to follow up, though I guess that was good enough. I'm not sure.
So that, I believe, will count as an escape. That was, what, 45 seconds into the round. And now, Bobby, was that an escape? Kind of, what did you see right there? Close?
It was close.
Yeah.
It was close. I don't know that I would have considered that an escape, but looked like he still had his position.
He seems to still have him a little bit. Oh, and
Well,
all he had to do was
doesn't matter.
get up quicker, and he
That
did
doesn't
it.
matter.
So Michael Sullivan, I do apologize, just springing to his feet essentially, no problem right there. I mean, we call that taking the seatbelt off, no problem. Michael Sullivan, 3 seconds into the second overtime, comes away with the win as he escapes. And here's another look at the replay, and it won't last very long. Walk us through that, Victoria.
Not a whole lot to walk you through. He just got up, and his opponent did not have him secured enough to stop it. And here we are.
I think
Ladies and gentlemen, after nearly 10 minutes of fantastic grappling action, we are now prepared to declare our winner 1 fall to 0. Let's hear it for the Mack Truck, Michael Sullivan.
Got what I need, but you say
All right.
oh baby, you got what I need, but you
All
say
right, here we are with the Mack Truck. How are you feeling after grappling for 8 and something minutes?
I feel pretty good. He's heavy and strong, I'll tell you that, but it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I decided to do it.
Well, you really hung in there. What was going through your mind when you knew in that overtime situation that all you had to do was get up faster than him?
Him, there's about 3 or 4 other guys who are smaller than me and always submitting me. So I was like, let's go. I was getting out.
Well, that's the kind of people you need in your gym to really push you so you're ready for moments like this. Who all would you like to thank?
I thank the whole team, PBL Hard Hitters. Y'all know who it is. And I got my girl and her parents there also. And my little girl, she's watching from home. So that's who I want to thank.
Awesome. I bet she's proud of you. Congratulations. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, the Mack Truck Sullivan.